Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a story time. I asked you guys on the video where I let you guys know that I had a baby girl, if you guys would be interested in my labor and delivery story, and you guys were like yes. Drop that story, I'm curious to see what happened. So yeah, I figured that's what I would film today. So let's just go ahead and get right on into the story. All right, so mind you, I am a first-time mom, so this is my first time going through the labor and delivery process. Okay, I'm just going to preface this story with that statement. That being said, the next closest person who I would obviously go to regarding any questions about life in general, but also specifically labor and delivery, would be who? My mom. And we're going to get into her later because I can't deal with her. I just can't, right? So whatever. So anyways, I'm just going to start off on the day that I actually went into labor. So this was on a Tuesday that I actually went into labor. I had her on a Wednesday. Yeah, why am I acting like I don't know? Like I would know that before I remembered anything else. So this started on late on a Tuesday, well, midday on a Tuesday, whatever. So anyways, that day I had an appointment, right? And it was like a regular, I think it was my 38-week appointment. And so I went in for my 38-week appointment. They're checking stuff and they're like, okay, you're 1 centimeter dilated, but that could literally mean anything. Like you could be like this for another 2 weeks. You could go into labor tonight. You could go into labor within the next hour. Like there's no big deal. And I think my appointment was around like 10 a.m. So they were like, are you having any contractions, anything like that? I was like, no, I'm good. Like nothing like that, right? So a few hours pass, I leave the appointment, you know, I tell mom, I tell Lance, everything went normal, no movement, because like by this time Lance is biting fingernails, like he's ready, like he has hospital bags ready, like he's been ready for this for a while. Okay, so when I told him, I'm like, yeah, nothing happened, because you know it's a pandemic, so he couldn't go into the appointments with me. And up until March, which is when they stopped allowing like spouses or significant others to come into the appointment, he had been literally to every single appointment. Like he had not missed a single one. So he was super disappointed that, because like that was a thing for him. Like he loved being able to say, I've been to every one of my wife's doctor's appointment, like every single one. So he would still come though. He still never missed an appointment though. He would just wait outside in the car. He would leave work and come pick me up, and we would go to my appointments, right? So anyways, I come out to the car and he's like, is it go time? I'm like, no. And he's like, oh my God. All right, so my camera battery died. It's probably gonna die again, but I'm gonna try and get through as much of the story as I can. So like I said, called my mom, let her know nothing was popping. And at this time, she was at my house. Yeah, she was at my house. Because I had called her and said I wasn't really feeling well, but I wasn't like feeling like any like contractions or like unbearable pain or anything like that. I just told her I wasn't feeling well. So she was actually at my house waiting for me. So anyways, I get back home and I think Lance ended up having to go back to work. He had to run back in. I think there was like an emergency or something like that. So anyways, like I said, my mom was here, so I came back home and I was lying down and I was like, Mommy, I don't know, I'm starting not to feel well. And she was like, well, what do you feel like? She's like, do you think you're having contractions? And I was like, I mean, my stomach hurts, but no, because, you know, when I asked the doctor, you know, well, what do contractions feel like? She's like, they'll feel like intense period cramps, like unbearable pain. You won't really be able to like speak through them. Like she was like, trust me, you'll know when you're having a contraction. I'm like, all right, cool, good to know, right? Because we don't want me to just be sitting at home in labor and like have no idea that I'm in labor. So I was like, this more feels like gas. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's gas. I was asking the doctor, and because I had called my doctor and they was like, oh, it's probably gas. So laying on the couch and it starts to get a little bit more intense, but I'm like, I know that this is a common thing, very gassy while you're pregnant. And it was like around like my sides kind of, and like kind of in my back area, which is, you know, obviously where gas would be. So I'm like, okay, it's not really like intent, like I can speak through them. I can like laugh at a joke, like, you know, they're asking me all these questions when I call, like, can you do this, can you do this? And they're like, yeah, no, you're definitely not having contractions. But there's like, just to ease like, you know, your stress or any worries you have, like, why don't you just come back in today and we'll check you again, make sure nothing's moving, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So I get there, and this was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I get there, again, they check me, still only 1 centimeter dilated. They hook me up to the machine where they measure the contractions. And they're like, okay, you're not necessarily Braxton Hicks, but these are very mild. So what you actually were having was contractions, but these are ones like this could last for upwards of a week. And, you know, just be on the lookout if they get like more intense or more frequent and more predictable. But like, you know, you're good to go back home. So I'm like, okay, and mind you, this is the doctor's office, not the hospital. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I went back home and I grabbed Dash because, like I said, my mom was at my house and she was actually working, and I didn't want Dash to like bark and distract her or anything like that. And also, you know, I love spending time with my kid. So I went and picked up Dash and we went to Starbucks. Now, mind you, I'm in Starbucks line, living my best life, get money, and like I'm like, yo, I'm still feeling these pains, but I literally just left the doctor, so I'm pretty sure I'm fine, right? So I'm in Starbucks. It's about to like pour down thunderstorm also. So I get my Starbucks and I'm like, this should help, you know, because usually coffee, I don't know, not even coffee, let me stop. Usually a good old nasty white chocolate mocha frappuccino really gets me there. It gets me to my happy place. So I was real happy about that. So I'm drinking my drink, living my best life, still having the gas pains, but you know, obviously it's to be expected, and I'm like less stressed because I know like this is gas and not contractions. So I get back home, and by this time it's around like 4 o'clock. My mom's almost off work. So I'm just laying in, she's in the front room of my house working, and I'm in the family room, which the front room is like directly, I don't know how to describe it, but like I have an open concept house, so like you can easily hear someone like in the next room, like what they're doing. Like it's not like I was like super far away and like blocked off. So she would just kind of like check out, like she's like, hey Pooh, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And you know, I'm asking her, I'm like, well, what do contractions feel like? Because like I'm like, oh, this gas pain, like it's not getting worse, but I'm like, it just won't budge, like it will not go away. So I'm like, well, what do contractions feel like? You know what this lady told me? You know, she's never felt a contraction in her life. I felt so attacked because I'm like, what do you mean you never felt a contraction in your life? She's like, yeah, when I went into labor with you, she's like, I went in for my checkup appointment and they told me to go to the hospital because I was in labor and I just had you. And I was like, I'm not understanding. I was like, so like, when did you, like, how did you know to get an epidural if you weren't in pain? And she was like, everyone just told me to get one. And, you know, I told the doctor, he asked me if I was in pain. I said no. So he said, you can't get an epidural. She was like, so then, you know, I waited like an hour and he came back and I was like, oh yeah, I'm in pain now. And she was like, but I never like felt a contraction. Like, I don't know what it feels like. So she was like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't even know how to help like talk you through this or tell you if it's just the gas pains or if they're like the contractions, like the mild contractions that they told you about. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I'm like, I feel a little salty at this point because, quick fact about my mom, she's one of those people where she's been pretty much the same size all her life, super cute shape, slim, but she's got like the hourglass figure. She doesn't have to work out. I think when she like left the hospital after giving birth to me, I think she only had like 5 pounds left to lose, if that. Like she just had a little bit of water weight to lose. Like she's just one of those freak of natures, like, and nothing like affects her. Like she doesn't get sick. So she's like one of those. So I'm like, you would not have contractions. Like, of course you did. Like that would have, why would you have had contractions? That would have made too much sense, right? So I'm salty at this point, but you know, she's being the best mom of life. So she's like, you know, giving me like a shoulder massage, and I'm drinking my Starbucks and sitting there with Dash or whatever. And baby's moving about the same amount, so you know, I'm feeling around and I'm like, all right, well, you know, she's still in there moving and shaking, because throughout my pregnancy I didn't have like a super active child. Like she would move occasionally, but she wasn't like one of those babies that was moving all day. So that being said, by this point Lance is getting home, my mom makes dinner, and I'm eating dinner, and I'm like, man, this gas pain will not go away. Like it was like, you know, sharp shooting pains, like I said, not unbearable, but like to the point where like I wanted to like walk it off. Like I would just kind of get up and walk around, but like that wasn't really like helping, but my mom giving me a massage was helping. So after I ate, and I really didn't eat a lot, but also I was like that my whole pregnancy. Fun fact, I gained, I think in total 5 pounds for my whole pregnancy. That's all I gained. But to be fair, I was actually overweight when I got pregnant. Like, I'm probably 25 pounds lighter now than I was prior to me getting pregnant. So I'm way smaller than I was. So I'm telling you that as a reference to like how my eating habits were. Like, I wasn't really like hungry during my pregnancy, and when I did want to eat something, all I wanted was like fruit, yogurt, cheese, crackers, stuff like that. Like, I really didn't like to eat full meals. So anyways, it wasn't odd that I wasn't like hungry or anything like that. So I'm just sitting here, and like, you know, a couple hours go by and I'm still feeling those pains, and I'm walking around and I'm like, oh, nothing's really helping. So I call the hospital, I call the doctor's office back again, like the labor and delivery line, and I'm telling them my symptoms, and they're like, okay, well, yeah, it's definitely contractions that you're having, but based on what you're saying, like you're still fine. I would still wait at home, but definitely continue to monitor them. So I downloaded a contractions app. So this was around like 10, I called at 10, right? So I downloaded this app at like 10:15. The app is measuring me for 30 minutes. I'm sorry. The app is measuring me for 30 minutes. So by about 10:45, it measures, I don't know how to describe it, but it measures like every time you think you're having contraction, you hit it, and then you hit it again when you think the contraction is over. So I'm sitting there watching it, and I think it was the 5th time that I hit it. All of a sudden an alert pops up, go to the hospital. And I was like, can you like not be so, like, this sounds very like definitive, like go to the hospital. So I'm like, okay, these apps are a little bit much. Like, fall back. I literally just talked to the doctor. The doctor said I'm good. So like, let me just measure it for like another 30 minutes. And same thing, it was like, go to the hospital. So I just, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I literally just spoke to the doctor. The doctor said everything was cool. I'm gonna measure one more time. So this is like an hour and a half. And it was like, at this point, she goes to the hospital. So I'm like, let me just call my doctor's office back again. So it's like 11:30 at this point. So I called them, and I'm telling them what the app says, and they're like, all right, well, at this point you can like start packing your hospital bag and head to the hospital. So I'm like, okay, I know I have time, and you know, I know how this is. A lot of times they'll send you back home if you're not ready. So I take a shower. I took a shower, I flat ironed my hair, Lance took a shower, and by this time it's about 1 a.m. 1:30. So I come into the guest room to tell my mom, I'm like, hey, I think it's time, I'm gonna go. And obviously she couldn't be there, which was heartbreaking for both of us because I am like so codependent on my mom. But it was just me and Lance. So do I hear my baby? Yeah. What's the matter? I gotta save that. I'm gonna have to stop it. I'm gonna have to stop that. I gotta save that. What is your matter with my sweet girl? Alright, camera died again. Sorry. Also, beautiful slobber mark from the child. That's the story of the birth that we're talking about right now. Yeah. So where was I? All right. So we're going to the hospital, and I remember my sister telling me, she gave me specific instructions. She's like, girl, eat before you get there because it is a strong possibility they're not gonna let you have any food. So we stopped by. All I wanted was a filet of fish from McDonald's. We stopped by one McDonald's. They didn't have it. We stopped by another McDonald's. They didn't have it. So then I was like, what the hell? Like, why don't they have my filet of fish here? Like, this is all I want in life. Like, I'm about to go deliver a child into the world, and literally all I want is a filet of fish. Rude. Like, I feel like McDonald's probably not the wisest choice of food you should eat, but you know, just give mama in labor what she wants. So then we go to Checkers, and they had this like spicy chicken sandwich that was pretty good. So I tore that up. So anyways, we get there, we're parking, and I'm like, okay, it's really starting to feel like contractions, and I'm timing it, and at this point they're like 4 minutes apart or 3 minutes apart, I think, at this point, and they're like really intense. But again, I'm still not like, I mean, I know they're contractions, but I just knew, I'm like, they're about to tell me to go back home. Like, I feel like these are Braxton Hicks. Like, they're gonna tell me to go back home. So I get there, I check in. It is dead in the hospital. It is the most surreal thing ever. I did not see another woman who was pregnant there. I didn't see another person outside of hospital personnel. Like the whole time, like from the time I checked in to like when I went to the maternity ward till I went like into my room for them to check me out, like no other person other than hospital staff. It was just odd. All right. So anyways, I get there. They check me out and she's like, yeah, so she's like, you think you're going home today? And I was like, yeah. And she started laughing. She was like, yeah, no, you're about to have a baby. You're like 5 centimeters dilated. I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. She's like, you weren't like in intense pain? I was like, no. And she was like, what does it feel like? I was like, I was kind of having like gas pains. And she was like, okay. She was like, well, you know, if you're good, then we're good. She's like, yeah, but you're definitely not going home. So she's like, you brought your hospital bag and everything, right? And Lance was like, yeah, we left it in the car because we weren't sure. And she was like, all right, Dad, we'll go get it because you guys are about to have a baby today. And mind you, this is like early Wednesday morning at like, by this time it's like 4 a.m. because again, y'all know I stopped at 11 different places. Like I had all the time in the world. But technically I did, you know, I was only halfway there. So around, I'd say 6 a.m. when I say these contractions hit me like a freight train, oh my, it went to me like just kind of champing through it because I'm like, this isn't that bad. Like, I'm like, if this is the worst that it gets, like I can handle this. So I was like, nurse, where's the anesthesiologist? Like I need Neprodone, I need one now. So luckily, because there was like 0 people in the hospital, what I felt like, anesthesiologist came through and he was a trooper, gave me the epidural, and like instantly all the pain that I was feeling went away because my pain didn't like ramp up slowly how they tell you on the interwebs. It went from mild, moderate, definitely bearable. Like if I had to go through that for like 12, 16, 18, 20 hours, however long I was going to be in labor, like I would have been completely fine to do that unmedicated, to the point where I'm like, I literally feel like I cannot breathe. It feels like my insides are like it feels, I don't want to be graphic if you've never like experienced contractions before, but like that's what it felt like for me. Like it felt like my insides were being like pulled apart. Like, oh my gosh, like I don't know why is that pain so intense. And it's to the point where I'm like, I genuinely can't describe, like there can't be anything comparable to it. And honestly, if you have contractions to what I feel was that severity, it's nothing like light period. Like what I was having before was like mild period cramps. So it went to the point where like I couldn't, like I kept closing my eyes. I started sweating because I was breathing so hard. Like I kept trying to walk around, like I just couldn't. And then I look over and like at first, like Lance was trying to do some work like on his laptop at like around like 5 a.m. But around like 6:30, he had fallen asleep by then. So I'm like basically like feeling like I'm in the throes of hell. And I look over and he's just like sleep, like mouth open. I was like, yeah, no. I was like, so you're gonna have to wake up because if I'm up, everybody's gonna have to be up. So anyways, he falls back asleep, but anesthesiologist comes in, takes care of everything. Now, what I did not know is that the epidural slows down or can slow down your labor and delivery process. So I went from it kind of moving really quickly because I remember right before they gave me the epidural, they're like, okay, you're probably looking to have this baby around about 11 a.m. They gave me the epidural. Mind you, I told you I was around like 5 to 6 centimeters at that point dilated. I want to say I was about 6. Why they come back and check me at like 10:30 or 11? I was only at like 7. I stayed at 7 from 11 all the way probably until about like 5 or 6. And I went to like 8, and like all the nurses was like, we really expected, like shifts had changed and everything. And they were like, yeah, we expected you to like, we thought we was going to deliver this baby by now. So mind you, I'm in and out of like basically consciousness all day. The epidural was the best thing that I could have ever chosen to do. I remember immediately, like when the medicine went in, the first thing I said was, well, I should have been did this. And like my labor and delivery team was great. Also, they said like I was like their favorite patient. I feel like they probably said it to everyone, but everyone was like, no, seriously, like you're hilarious. And I was like, stop it. Like, cause you know me, I'm cracking jokes the whole time. Like that's just who I am. So they're like, you're making this entertaining for us. Like there was like, we keep coming in here to check on you just so, you know, we have, you know, a laugh. And I'm like, I feel a way about y'all telling me y'all laughing at me or with me. Like we need to discuss. But anyways, that being said, so I'm pretty much in and out of conscious cracking jokes all day. This is what happens. I also think like whenever I'm under any type of anesthesia, like it makes me crack jokes because I had a thyroidectomy, I can't remember how many years ago, but I was cracking jokes like as they were giving me the anesthesia. The anesthesiologist, I remember I saw him again when I woke up, and he was like, you were cracking jokes like up until the very end. Like as I'm going under, he's like, hey, how you feeling? Because you know you meet up with your anesthesiologist prior to them like giving you or putting you up under anesthetics. But why am I telling you this? Anyways, I was cracking jokes, okay? That has nothing to do with my labor and delivery story. So anyways, I just think anesthesia makes me want to crack jokes is what I'm getting to, okay? So this was around, I want to say 6 o'clock. So I'm up, like I'm kind of in and out. I'm watching TV here and there. You know, as they give you the epidural, they don't really like for you to eat. So I'm eating ice chips. I'm drinking water. They tell you they don't really want you to drink water, but I was like, I'll die of thirst. So I'm just going to ignore you guys. So I continue to drink water. So I'm drinking water. I'm eating ice here and there. And I didn't get hungry or anything like that, probably because, you know, checkers. But so this goes on all the way until, I kid you guys not, 10:30. 10:30 comes, I wake up with the most intense pressure I've ever felt in my life. They say like it feels like you have this intense pressure to like go to the bathroom. That's not what I felt. I didn't feel anything like that. I felt, all right, she's back. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so it's almost her arrival time in the story. So I wake up at, no, it wasn't 10:30. I remember I woke up, I looked at the clock, it was 10:21. And like I said, I felt the most intense pressure that I ever felt in my entire life. I felt nothing like, oh, you need to go to the bathroom. It was one of those things that honestly, the pressure that I felt was indescribable, other than the fact that you can't do anything but want to push in order to like get rid of this pressure. It wasn't pain, but the pressure was to the point where like I don't know how to describe it. The pressure was almost unbearable. Like I said, not painful, but just the pressure, y'all, I don't even, it's wild. So where you going? Where you going, mama? So they come in and they're like, and I'm telling them, I'm like, I feel like I'm starting to feel pain. I'm not sure, but it's pressure and yada, yada, yada. And they check me and they're like, oh no, girl, like it's go time. And by this time, it's probably about 10:45. So, you know, they're getting everything ready. By 10:58, my baby girl was here. And leading up to that, I'm still, mind you guys, I am pushing, right? So like 1, 2, 3, like push, and you push for 3 seconds, or you know, you push through the contraction. And it just so happened Straight Outta Compton was on, and I was watching it. And as I'm like in between pushes, I think I pushed 3 times. In between pushes, I'm like leaning over, like looking at the TV, and I'm just laying there and I'm like, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be like. And like the nurses was like, what do you mean? I was like, I didn't think I would be watching TV like while I am, you know, trying to deliver my child into the world. And they started laughing. And Lance watched the entire thing, and I was like, what is it like? What does it look like? Because they asked me, like, do you want a mirror? I was like, no, I don't. But I mean, I didn't care if Lance watched. And I was like, what does it look like? Like, you know, her being born. Because he was literally watching the whole thing, and he's like, babe, I see your head. Okay, this. I think this is it. Like, this is gonna be the last push. And you know, my labor and delivery team was great, but like everyone's coaching you through it. And he's like, I see her head. And I pushed, and like on the push where her head came out, he was like, oh, and everyone fell out laughing. And they're like, why? Like, why'd you say oh? They was like, I didn't think her head was gonna be that big, but they put, like I said, on the third push, she came out, and she's like, don't push anymore. And I remember she said, Mom, look down. And next thing I know, I see this little baby girl coming out, and they're handing her, well, not handing her to me, they put her on my chest very aggressively, I might say. Like, at this point, I'm like they tossed her on my chest is what I'm telling people. So she laid on my chest, and they was like, Mom, open your eyes. Because I was just, by this point, like, I'm out of it, because I can't believe that I just like delivered a child. She was like, Mom, open your eyes. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. But one thing I'll say that I never like understood, and I don't think anyone ever told me this, is I will never forget how she smelled. Like, it's the most amazing, it's the sweetest thing I've ever, it's indescribable. Like, when they laid her on my chest and I just smelled her, I was like, it's a smell I've never smelled before. It's like it's just like the best thing. I don't even know how to describe it, but it just, I don't even know. It's like that smell I'll never ever forget. Like, she just smelled like an angel. Like, I don't know if that's weird. I don't know if anyone else has gone through that, but y'all, it was oh my gosh, it was the best thing ever. And my sister just asked me, she's like, I never asked you this. She's like, but did you cry when she was born? And I was like, no. She's like, yeah. She's like, knowing you, she's like, I actually would have thought that was weird, like, if you did cry when she was born. I was like, I know Lance shed a couple tears, but I think I was just so shell shocked. But yeah, so that was pretty much my labor and delivery story. For some reason, I just didn't want to go to the hospital. Where are you going? Where you going, big mama? Oh, do we have a poo trying to happen? Oh, can I have, hello? This is also why I don't wear my hair down. Hold, please. Oh, hello. Okay, here we go. You better? So yeah, little mama's getting fussy, but yeah, that was it. I think I did pretty well for me not knowing what to expect, because you can honestly do as much research and ask as many questions as you want, but it's all like, once you kind of get into the throes of it all, it's almost like you're on autopilot as it's happening. But I feel like, because I've been rushing trying to tell this story, I don't know if I missed anything, but I hope this was entertaining to you guys. I mean, if not, it was my labor and delivery story, so it is what it is. No, but anyways, so comment down below if anything that I said to you made perfect sense and you understand completely what I'm talking about, or if you're like, girl, what? And I do want to do a separate video on more in detail on what it felt like going through this whole process, you know, during a pandemic. But you guys see I'm like long-winded as it is, and I feel like I have filled a lot of silent gaps with because my mind is always thinking of something else at this point. But yeah, see, again, but I think that's it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.